to you live on tape from a studio somewhere near Darden Prairie, Missouri. It's time for a reality check. And now, here he is, your pastor and mine, Pastor Mike Schreiner!
Hey, welcome guys. You made it. Great to be here. Happy Friday to you. Hope you've had a good week and looks like a great weekend ahead. But boy, I'm getting some fatigue here. 8 weeks. 8 weeks we've been doing this. It just doesn't seem possible, does it?
No, it sure doesn't. My goodness, we've been hiding around for 8 weeks. That's a long time.
Looking for things to do these days, in the free time, lots of work, lots of meetings, lots of Zoom calls. But we just decided, hey, we knew that a puppy was on our horizon, and we just went ahead and did it. It's been 10 months since we had to put down our chocolate lab, 13-year-old Sadie, and we knew a dog was coming, but we just said, hey, what better time than right now? So we got a 8-week-old beagle that we named Bentley. I don't know if you've heard about it, Keith.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about it. It's blowing up the internet, Mike. All of the congregation, like on 9 a.m. and noon at those devotion times and prayer time. Oh, that's the conversation. Like, what are they going to name it? Well, let's get a picture. How big is he? Oh, look how, like, I'm okay, enough with the puppy already. So I'm not really sure about the sanity of that move, Pastor. You had everything worked out. You got an 18-year-old kid about to move out of the house, and you get a puppy. And so how are things going? Is he chewing on things? Is he staying out of trouble? Is he doing anything inappropriately?
He's a cutie. He's a puppy. So he loves to chew. We're trying to keep, chew toys in his mouth. But so far, kind of been a rock star. No accidents inside. He's not chewing a hole in anything that he shouldn't have. Doesn't really, bark. He kind of whines because he, wants to be held. But I've been very impressed. But I've noticed something since having a dog in the house the last week. The dog actually reminds me of me. I think this coronavirus thing has kind of turned all of us into dogs. Think about this. I don't know about you, but I find myself roaming around the house all day looking for food. I find myself being told no when I go close to strangers. And when Dee Dee says, let's go on a car ride, I get real excited.
I thought you had a real metaphor there. I thought that was going to be a theological point. Like that was good. That was good. They say the coronavirus has done what no wife was able to do. It closed down all our sports, shut down all the bars, and kept the men at home. Hey, but a cheek. Hey.
Yeah, you think that's bad? I asked Alexa on Wednesday. I said, hey, Alexa, what's the weather this weekend? And she said, what do you care? You're not able to go anywhere anyway.
We could do this all night, folks. We could do this all night. But I think it's time we bring on our guest. This is the perfect guy to arrest that Alexa, that you could get rid of all of that right now, Mike.
That's great. I put pepper spray on her. That shut her down for a while, but our guest may be able to cuff her and lock her up. We've had some incredible guests here since we started this reality check 8 weeks ago. First, some staff at Morningstar, and then the last 3 weeks, we had Dwayne Sliger, who talked about mental health, and then Mary LePac from the Wentzville School District, and this week, the Chief of Police from Lake St. Louis, one of our very own folks at Morningstar, one of our own members. So, yeah, we could do this all night, but I think the church would really like to hear from the Chief of Police. So why don't you go ahead and give us an introduction?
And so here he is, the Chief of Police from Lake St. Louis Police Department. Give a warm welcome to Chris DiGiuseppi.
Woo! Oh, yeah!
Let me see if we can get this right. All right.
There we go. Hey, welcome. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Doing pretty good. Getting through it like everybody else. And, the family's doing well, adjusting, I think, like everyone else, and not used to homeschooling and all that, having everybody at home. But hopefully there's some light at the end of the tunnel here, huh?
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we get into things, great to hear about the family. I know that I speak for all of us at Morningstar, your church family. On a normal day, we give thanks for what you guys do in our police department, but especially this season, I know things have been incredibly wonky. So thanks for all you've been doing, Chris.
We appreciate it. We appreciate everybody out there supporting us and continuing to pray for us. We need it. So.
Yeah. Hey, what are you hearing regarding the emergency operations and the spread of the virus and the reopening of businesses now that the governor has kind of announced what he's announced?
Some of the things that I'm seeing, we've really started to scale back. When this thing was really rolling, we were, there was briefings, there was information coming in, there was briefings a couple times a day. Emergency operations have started scaling back, and it seems like we're either on a plateau or declining. That's kind of the word that I'm getting. Everybody's very cautious. It's a delicate situation, but everybody's very cautious. But it seems like that's the direction that we're heading. So that's why I think that you've seen some of your leaders, your government leaders, coming out and saying, we're ready to start introducing the reopening, the phasing in, and it's time. So, perhaps that's some good news.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, you and your officers are out among the people about as much as anybody is these days. What are you guys seeing and hearing? What's the general climate out there?
I think, Mike, when this first started, the general climate was like anything unknown. It was a lot of fear. I mean, it was, a lot of people were afraid and hesitant, a lot of anxiety, maybe even some panic, in the beginning. And I think that the public is doing well, getting through this. They're certainly supporting us. But there's still some anxiety out there. There's a climate, I think, now that's kind of turned into frustration. Some people are edgy. My officers come back and tell me that, we're not having out and out fights, but we have, people are getting in verbal arguments and stuff, drive-through lines, some of the lines in the retail stores. It's overwhelming people. There's a lot of stress out there. I think there's some depression going on. We're really trying to pay attention to people's mental and emotional health because it is a stressful time. So, we had a neighboring county that had 43% increase in domestic cases. So, it is something, mental health is something that, we need to look at. And, when I look at the stay-at-home order in the county, they did address that. That was one of the things that they said was essential, mental health, emotional health, and spiritual health, which is all connected, even to your physical. So
absolutely. We've been learning that for the last few years with the emotionally healthy spirituality. And a couple of weeks ago, we had Dwayne Sliger, a counselor, on to be talking about, the importance of mental health. It sounds like that unfortunately, crime hasn't necessarily decreased in the midst of this. The criminals are just staying home and finding ways of continuing to kind of get in trouble from home, huh?
Yeah, they don't seem to follow the rules. So, they didn't get the memo that the stay-at-home order applied to everyone. But, crime still continues. Unfortunately, some of the things that we have in situations like this, people take advantage. And we see new types of crime pop up. We see the scams and the fraud, cyber crimes, cyber attacks. So, be careful out there. Watch what you open. Watch your emails. Just be vigilant, because it's out there. And, and then our typical crimes that we were dealing with before are still moving forward, but we're still out there. We're still doing what we do, and we're still trying to stop that, apprehend those that are doing that, and facilitate the criminal justice system as best we can right now.
Yeah, some things never change. What about, the governor's given a stay-at-home order, and I kind of look around and I see people, still gathering and stuff. Or how are you guys responding to that? Are you writing tickets? Are you cuffing and stuffing? What are you doing there?
We've had a lot of questions on this. I've had people call me and such and say, hey, what are you doing? Are we going to get arrested? Are we going to get ticketed? I've even had people call me and say, hey, I'm traveling out of state. Do I need a letter from you to travel? And the answer to all of it is no. We, you know, that, and across law enforcement, not just me, but when I talk to other police chiefs and law enforcement administrators, that's not the approach that we're taking. You know, the county stay-at-home order was a regulatory order. You know, we're trying to achieve a goal. We're trying to keep everybody safe, but it's not something that we're criminally enforcing. We're with the people, for the people. We're there to defend the people, and it's, you know, we're not writing tickets. We're not making arrests. The way that we accomplish this is like the way we accomplish everything else. If we don't have the public behind us, we don't have the community behind us, we can't accomplish anything. And really, that's the way that we do it. We rely on the goodwill of the people, and this has gone well. The people have helped us. They have stepped up. You know, when you become a police officer, you take an oath to protect people, and protecting their physical safety, their health, is very important. But equally as important, protecting their freedoms, their liberties, their constitutional rights. That's in the oath that you take. You take an oath to uphold the Constitution in the state of Missouri and the United States. And we can't have one over the other. We have to have both. So, you know, people will say this thing is serious. People have died. They're right. People have died. It's serious. We need to try to curb this. But you know, people have died for our freedoms too, and we won't encroach on that. So we need both. We need to do both, and that's the approach that law enforcement is taking. With the help of the people, just like every other obstacle, we're able to overcome it when they come alongside of us, they support us, and they have really stepped up.
Yeah, well, it's one of the things that, you know, I've been in the Lake St. Louis community now, specifically Lake St. Louis, for about 15 years. And I'm just really impressed with the way that your officers are out in the public. And it seems like there's a lot of goodwill between your staff and the community. What are the specific challenges right now for you and your officers?
Well, you know, like in any crisis, the challenge is that you can prepare all you want, but you don't know what you're dealing with until you're in the middle of it. And there will be 100 things that you didn't think of. You know, when this first started, the information was coming in so quickly that it was hard to keep up. So you would, you know, say operational wise, it would be a question of, well, how do we protect our police officers, our first responders? You know, we're in a business where we have to make contact with people. You just can't virtually arrest somebody or virtually protect somebody or virtually save somebody's life from having a heart attack. So how do we protect them? What do we have to do? So in the beginning, there wasn't a lot of information on what we were dealing with on this virus. So personal protective equipment, how much do you need? What procedures and steps do they take? And those were changing. Sometimes it was changing twice a day. So we were changing those procedures. It's still changing. It's slowing down. But if an officer goes over to a house and they get exposed, you know, the questions were like, well, then what do we do? If they're exposed, do we have to quarantine them? Yeah, I think we need to quarantine them for 14 days. Well, that's a problem. I'm going to run out of police officers. Then something came out and said, well, what's an exposure? It's 15 minutes, 6 feet apart. But if you're in full personal protective equipment, it's not an exposure. You know, all of those kind of things. And, you know, we worked through those, but they were constantly changing. That's the challenge in every crisis situation. And I think that's pretty much been the trend of everything. In the beginning, there wasn't a lot of information. Even our health professionals and the health department and all that, they could only use the information that they had. You know, they made up plans and procedures, and we progressed. Now we have different information. Things are changing. And I think that's why we're progressing towards, you know, reopening.
Right. Absolutely. Speaking of, you know, good things on the horizon, have you noticed anything good, the positive in the midst of all this?
You know, I mean, there's been definitely a lot of negative. I try to once in a while be the optimist and, you know, look at the bright side of things and the silver lining. And, one of the things I got to highlight is just the outpouring of support from the community. I mean, they always step up, and I can tell you that that when we have a problem, we have an obstacle, everybody steps up. There are leaders that just take charge, and this has been no different. We, for example, personal protective equipment was lacking. I mean, it was at a loss. We had it, but if we got into a real situation, we were going to burn through that. We had people in the community and in the area that stepped up, went out, raised money, used network connections, and brought us personal protective equipment. We had a pallet of cleaning supplies and Lysol wipes and hand sanitizer and things like that. People just stepped up to make it work. So the outpouring of support. But I think that, when you look across our country, that's our culture. We step up, and I think that because of the way that we are, because of our freedoms and the way that we are and the way that our nation is, that allows people to do that. And it's just, that's been a real testament. I really appreciate that. That's been a positive. I think the other positive that I've seen and heard from people, and you've probably seen this too, is, it's not pleasant being stuck at home. It's not pleasant being, having, a lot of these stress outlets closed, your gym, your church, but I have heard from people, hey, you know what? I got to sit down and eat a meal with my family tonight. We actually played a board game tonight. And that's important. That's important to us in law enforcement, because the strength of the family unit drives a lot of things, a lot of good things. And when that family unit isn't strong, we see the domestic violence, the addiction, those things that lead to some bad things. But, I guess if one good thing could come out of this, and you can tell me what your thoughts are, but drawing back in, strengthening our families. I know you guys did a sermon series sometime back on, hey, take a break, take a step back.
Yep.
This was a good time. So
we're hoping that people seize this opportunity and really find the time to slow down. I mean, I think one of the biggest regrets that people will have on the other side, if they don't, is that they will just filled all their time with work and projects around the house, all good things. But man, we hope, right? Let's keep our fingers crossed and say our prayers that we don't have another one of these seasons in our lifetime. So let's try to make the most of it. Let's spend some quiet time with God. Let's spend some great time with our family, and let's find a way to reach out and be a good neighbor. So hopefully those things will strengthen our community, and hopefully our church will continue to be strong. I want to thank you, Chris, for all the ways that you support us specifically at Morning Star as one of our members, and we love your family. Thank you for all you do for our community, and know that we're praying for you. Stay safe, be well, and I know you find every opportunity you can to share Jesus in your life. Thanks, brother, for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. See you guys.